Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About, a series spotlighting leaders, authors, artists, marketers, creators, and entrepreneurs sharing tips and expert advice on business, media, technology, and frankly, life itself. I'm your host, Cynthia Nelson, three-time entrepreneur, Forbes contributor, investor, and advisor. Today, we're talking to Matt Behrend, CEO of Agility. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Cynthia. It's great to be here.
Hey, so I want to give the audience a little bit of background, if you would, of how you kind of got to where you are leading Agility. What is your background?
My background started off in psychology, interestingly enough. I was studying psychology and thought I wanted to be a therapist. This was, 15 years ago. So um, I shadowed a therapist and immediately realized that was not for me. And it was interesting as I was studying psychology in the evenings, I would go home, after school in college and work on a business. And it took me a couple of years to figure out I was an entrepreneur and, wanted to do that. So, yeah, I got into entrepreneurship, fell in love with it. Absolutely love the process of building businesses and building new technologies. And quite honestly, it's the process of interviewing customers to discover that gold. To figure out where the pain exists,
Right.
and then building solutions for it and teams around that can scale.
Well, that psychology probably came in really handy in that particular area.
It really did actually. One of the things that really kicked it off for me was the one of my classes about research. It was a I can't remember the name exactly of the class, but it was about um, uh, uh, survey writing. So
Mm-hmm.
how to
Mm-hmm.
write surveys and how to ask questions to remove bias, and
Right.
is that it's ended up being a really valuable skill. So I guess college wasn't for all for nothing. No,
No, for
it's
sure.
good.
Everything's a building block, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of building, you've built through a lot of change and you've led agility through really major industry shifts. How do you balance reacting to short-term challenges? Because, clients are always on ROI, 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 right? While still
Yeah.
keeping your team focused on the long-term growth of the brand and also the company.
Yeah, this has been a really interesting challenge for us because, have to do it with the company, obviously, and help the employees to constantly be thinking about the long-term vision. Um, but also our customers. So we're a solution for brand advertising, right? Brand
Mm-hmm.
advertising is a long-term investment.
Mm-hmm.
And the world, frankly, is obsessed with performance marketing. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants they want to see a return within 7 days. You know, they don't most companies don't actually know what their sales cycle is when you're talking about from first exposure, right? Where they're not even
Right.
aware of your brand or maybe not even aware of the category.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from that first exposure to a purchase can often be 5 to 7 times longer than a company thinks it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been difficult to do it. So a couple of things we've done work really well. On the employee side, there are the obvious ones. In all hands meetings, right, we're constantly talking about the vision. In our executive meetings and leadership meetings, I'm regularly talking about the vision and what it really takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, telling that story in a way that people can fall in love with that vision. They can
Right.
feel like they're part of it. They can feel like the vision is something that they want just as badly as I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's about bringing something new to the world and being part of that adventure. So there's that aspect of it. I think that most CEOs and leaders really get and sort of do intuitively. But on the customer side, that's been the interesting part of trying to get performance marketers who are obsessed with short-term ROI
Mm-hmm.
to be able to champion long-term digital advertising investments that, the horizon for the return might be a year or
Right.
sometimes even more. And on that front, what we found to work well is everything there has to be a fundamental shift in measurement. So these marketers have had to understand that contribution margin after marketing, CMAM,
Mm-hmm.
is a much more important KPI than, say, ROAS, for
Mm-hmm.
example. ROAS is really misleading. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, we've seen a really interesting shift in the industry where a lot of marketing leaders are, in fact, one of a public company. They do a couple billion in annual revenue. One of the marketing leaders told us recently that he pulled a little stunt where he had a flag that said ROAS on it, and they went out in the parking lot and they lit it on fire because
It's awesome.
yeah, because that he just had to get his team to understand ROAS is sort of a symptom of short-termism, right? This sort of some people will call it a disease that just drives companies to sacrifice long-term growth for short-term efficiency, and
Mm.
that's really hurting them. So yeah, shifting the mentality around measurement and shifting to KPIs that actually measure long-term growth or measure healthy growth has worked really well for us.
I mean, that's really talks about culture and leadership, but also, creativity meeting technology. How do you bring those worlds together and amplify them? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but anything else you can expand on?
I love this aspect of being in the brand advertising world. So the bringing creativity and technology together is actually at the heart of how we're differentiated as a company. It's a core part of our vision for agility. So I'll describe it in a couple ways. The creativity is at the heart of uh, brand advertising. For sure. It's the storytelling that really moves people, right? Makes a connection, makes them
Mm-hmm.
feel a connection with your brand. Now, the difficult part is most companies, actually, to my previous comment, most companies have been really scared to make brand advertising investments and long-term brand advertising investments because it feels like such a bet, right?
Right,
Such a
right,
big risk.
right.
It's like if I don't nail this story, the creativity side of it, if I don't nail it, this is a year-long investment, and I'm not going to be able to, get this money back. So let's just keep moving it to more and more efficient channels.
Mm.
Well, we solved that from, sort of from day one. We realized, hey, brand advertising has to be rebuilt from the ground up and built in a way that's going to make it so that it's hyper targeted.
Mm-hmm.
The channels have to be merged, right? This
Mm-hmm.
whole like flood every channel with the same message and
Right.
just an enormous number of wasted impressions and stories that don't necessarily connect with every segment of your audiences um, or of your audience. Creative and technology, we started on the technology side. We built channel connections. So sort of merged all these different brand advertising channels so they operate as a single channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also built in technology. We merged all of this different audience data so that you can actually target people not just based on the data that's available in a single channel, for example, but we can merge it all. So you can merge geo data with credit card data with behavioral and contextual data. It's all part of the same pool now. So those two technology sides enabled us to a delivery mechanism to get advertising to people in a way that wasn't possible before. That's the technology side. On the creative side, we actually rebuilt the way that brand advertising creative is built. So this is fascinating because rather than saying, "Hey, what's the message that we're going to go to market with?"
Mm-hmm.
We're saying there actually needs to be a large number of variants
Mm-hmm.
around different messaging concepts
Mm-hmm.
that are going to build the strongest emotional connection for the different audience segments that you have. So the production process actually from the beginning takes that into account, and in let's say a production that normally would have taken 2 or 3 days,
Mhm.
sorry, 2 or 3 months to get all the, to nail and cost $1 million.
Right,
Now we can get 30 variation, and this is without using AI yet. Once that comes full, when that is good enough to
right.
actually run ads, it's not quite yet. It's not there yet. Um, but now you can create, in 2 or 3 days, 30 different variants of an ad, and then our technology can test into it. So it's really creativity is still key for building emotional connections. You have to
Right.
tell stories that matter, but you also have to be able to test into it and follow the data, to really make brand advertising scalable and efficient enough for companies to confidently make that investment.
That really covers a great, I mean, I love the use of building the technology and then rebuilding, how you're actually working with brands and the brand creativity side. You've got a lot of people following you. You've got real practical advice, but what's kind of a piece of advice that you share most often with other leaders that are trying to grow without burning out their teams?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, the unpopular opinion is that, and I think most leaders intuitively know this, if you're doing it right, a few people are going to quit along the way,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
that's the difficult part. So that's kind of on one end of the scale. If, it's not for high growth is not for everybody, and
Right.
that's okay. On the other side of it, the sort of positive side, like, your best people, the people that your growth is depends on,
Mm.
keeping them happy. Um, Man, so much of it just depends on your operational and measurement systems. The company has to know if they're winning or not.
Right. Right.
Right. So you have this, obviously there has to be a master scorecard. It has that. I would say one thing for this audience, for technology leaders, especially companies that are scaling and potentially looking at exiting, the master scorecard, the measuring stick, right? The tool that you use to communicate with your team about whether or not you're winning, it has to align to how the market values your company. So a lot of companies will make the mistake of having a couple of KPIs for each department, and like that's the lens that you look at. And that's useful. Obviously, those departments need to have their KPIs, but at the company level, you have to have a scorecard that aligns to the way that um, if your goal is to sell the company, measure the company's success based on how the acquiring company is going to value you.
Right.
So it changes things a little bit. The lens is different, and frankly, there's a lot more revenue metrics in that master scorecard than, revenue looks like it has three-fourths of the metrics, and then 1/4 is sort of operational metrics, but um, that's something that actually fundamentally changes the way that a company behaves and helps your best employees know when they're actually winning, and it becomes tangible that the enterprise value is growing consistently.
Right.
There's a shift that happens for shareholders. Your best employees obviously should have stock. In fact, that's frankly be generous with the stock. Like,
Yeah.
don't that's going to pay off way more in the end. So get your best employees stock, and then make sure that the company is being measured in the way that an acquirer is going to value you, so that your best employees aren't thinking, oh, I'm making $300,000 a year. No, they're thinking my stock value is growing $20,000 a month. Like,
Right.
and that's that extra value.
The incentive side of it. How do people get a hold of you if they want to work with you? Get advice or they want to work with you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Oh man, I would say LinkedIn but it's so noisy these
It
days.
it is, but how do they get a hold of you? What's the website
Oh
if they want
yeah.
to reach out?
So agilityads.com.
Julie ads
AGILITYADS. Yep, .com.
julieads.com. Great. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to be on the podcast. I appreciate your learnings, the background, and I love that combination of creativity and technology. It sounds like a winner.
Thanks, Cynthia. It's so great to spend time with you and look forward to talking again.
Sure.